you can feel that surge of adrenaline that flowed into this system of that very patriotic 17-year-old sailor 77 years ago. So listen up. Follow me. Stay close. Cover my back. And I'll lead us through it. I was assigned the 800 to 1200 security watch, Aerial Patrol Squadron VP 23's hangar, as Wayne said, right in the center of Pearl Harbor, the bullseye of Pearl Harbor, on the morning of December 7th, 1941. I heard the sound of an approaching aircraft, but that's not unusual. We're a naval air station. Airplanes come and go, you know, but not usually on a Sunday and not that early in the morning. Suddenly the sound of that airplane changed, and I knew immediately that it was in a power dive. And I'm thinking, uh-oh, that's one of those carrier air group pilots. You know, he's got a little bit bored with that regulation formation flying. He's wanting to do a little hot dogging and have a little fun. And I'm thinking, boy, oh boy, I wouldn't want to be in his shoes when the commanding officer gets a hold of him. He is really going to be in trouble. Little did I realize that it was those of us there on the ground and on the ships that were going to be in some serious, serious trouble very, very shortly. Suddenly and almost simultaneously, there was a tremendous roar, and bomb fragments, explosion debris, and window glass came crashing into the back of my head, ears, neck, and onto my shoulders. If you've been involved in similar events, you'll maybe remember that something like that can kind of derail your train of thought. It did mine anyway. It took me a few moments to get my train of thoughts back together. But even when I did, I'm still thinking it's one of our friendly air group pilots, hot dogging, crash. I'm going to go down and see if I can be of some help. When I got on the lower level, went out through the narrow opening, left the unclosed end of that rolling steel hangar door, the sound of another aircraft. I looked up, and here comes this airplane in a steep power dive, and I'm seeing what's looking like blinking or flashing lights on the front, hearing strange popping and buzzing sounds all around me, but I don't recognize either of them for what they were. Later I was told that what I thought were blinking and flashing lights was actually machine gun muzzle flashes, and those popping, buzzing, and whizzing sounds that I was hearing were those machine gun bullets striking and ricocheting off that steel hangar door right behind me and off the concrete apron on which I was standing. But since I didn't recognize them for what they were, I didn't consider them any danger to me. My interest was in a big old bomb hanging there on the bottom of that dive bomber. Suddenly that bomb released, it wobbled as it began to fall, and that airplane began to pull out of its dive. By the time it had finished its dive and was in level flight, I don't think it was more than 100, 150 feet over my head. It's then that I first saw and recognized that big, round, red insignia there on the bottom of the wing. That, and the fact that he's just dropped a bomb, has convinced me that, oh, these are not the friendly fellows I thought they might be. You know, I turned around, hurried back inside the hangar, hoping I could find someone with the key to the ammo shack. All of our guns and ammunition was locked up, and I wanted to get a gun and some ammo and get at these guys, you know. But as I come in the front door of the hangar that morning, the other few that I was on duty with were heading out the back door. Somebody, I suppose the duty officer, spots me and says, "Hey, you, follow me." I went after them. I thought, oh boy, we're going to get some guns, ammunition. We're going to do something about this, you know. But as they went out the back door of Building 54, instead of turning to the right and going down to the ammo shack, they turned to the left, went out there somewhere near the other end of the hangar, jumped into an on-filled construction ditch. I followed, jumped in after them. I hit the bottom of that ditch, got myself stabilized, look up. I'm looking right at a guy there in his white uniform. The work uniform was those blue bell-bottom dungaree trousers and a blue chambray work shirt. But he was in his dress white uniform, as though he was going into Honolulu, going to church or something. Never did find out why he was in his white uniform, but I'm so thankful that he was, because there, on the left sleeve of that uniform, was a petty officer's rating badge. And I recognized the wing, round, cannonball, the insignia of an aviation ordnanceman. You the duty ordnanceman. Yeah, you got to keep the ammo shack. Yeah, well, let's go get some guns and ammo and shoot these blankety blanks, you know. So I had much more than hit the bottom of that ditch, and that I and that ordnanceman were on our way up out of the ditch. Somebody, again I suppose the duty officer, calls out, "Get back in the ditch. Get back in the ditch." I don't want to be in that ditch. We're military men. We should be putting up a defense. We shouldn't be here in this ditch. Besides, I know this is the beginning of that war that they've been talking about, we've been preparing for. And I'm from a proud family, and I damn well know that if I'm going to lose my life in this battle or any other battle of this war, I would want my family and my country to know that I died fighting, not hiding. Yeah. We continued upon the ditch, started to run for the ammo shack. Then I heard the most unexpected military command directed at myself and the oarsman I thought I would ever hear in the military, especially under those conditions. We weren't running from the action, we were running back to it. Somebody, again I suppose the duty officer, shout, "Get back in that ditch or I'll put you on report for disobeying a direct order." Hell's bells. Talk about being between a rock and a hard spot. These guys in these airplanes are machine gunning and dropping bombs, trying to do as much damage and kill as many of us as they could, and our own duty officer hiding here in the ditch is threatening us with military discipline for one to defend ourselves? I couldn't believe it. With total and complete disregard for the threat of military discipline, with total and complete disregard for the fact that aerial bombs and machine gun bullets were raining down the air as we were running, we continued to run. We made it to the ammo shack. The oarsman unlocked the door, let himself in. I'm right behind him. What do you want? Give me a 50 caliber machine gun. Now, I'm a recent farm boy. The biggest gun I'm used to firing on a regular basis is a little shoulder-fired 22 caliber rifle. This is not a shoulder-fired gun. This is a fixed mount machine gun. Hell, it looked to me like a cannon without wheels, you know. But I took it as best I could. Most likely cradled it in my arms, turned, and started for the door. By now, I guess a few other brave souls figured they hadn't ought to be in that ditch either, and they'd followed us to the ammo shack. And the guy coming in the door was somewhat taller than I, huskier built. I just offloaded that machine gun to him, saying, "Here, take it to the PBY parked in front of 23's hangar. I'll get the ammo." He looked a bit surprised, but he took a turn and out the door he went. I turned around, and there again, I'm so grateful and thankful for that aviation ordnance. Because without his cooperation, none of this defense that we were able to set up there on that end of Ford Island would have occurred. Anyway, when I turned around, he was just setting 2 canisters of 50 caliber ammo up on the counter. I grabbed those 2 canisters of ammunition, turned, and out the door I went. Now, I'm not a runner or a sprinter, never have been, but I guarantee you, I beat the guy with the gun to the airplane. He had a heavier load than I did. We were approaching that airplane from the port side, the same direction that the attacking aircraft were coming in from. But the ladder to get into the airplane was hanging from the starboard gun blister. I ran around the backside of that airplane, set those canisters down, started up the ladder. I don't think I got more than maybe a couple of rungs when it dawned on me, hey, if I get up inside this airplane, am I going to be strong enough to reach down and pull that big old gun up inside? I don't think so. So I jumped down off the ladder, just as the guy with the gun got there. I said, "Give it to me, you get up inside, I'll hand it to you." Boy, he chopped up that ladder, jumped inside, turned around, reached down. I got the gun to him somehow, most likely muzzle first, which is the lightest end, but which is also a safety no-no. But I don't think either one of us were thinking much about safety right at that time. I shouted, "Put it in the port blister. That's the side they're coming from." He turned and disappeared into the fuselage of that airplane. I grabbed the canister of that ammo in my left hand, guided myself up in my right hand, guided myself up the ladder with the left hand, set it inside the airplane, back down, got the second one, back up the ladder, set it inside, jumped inside, picked those 2 canisters up, turned, stepped across to the port gun blister, just as he was swinging that gun out and locking it in firing position. I set the canister down under the gun, flipped the lid open, up the end of the valve, ready to load, thinking he'd have the breech open. But he was just standing there staring skyward. I looked up, and here comes another one of those airplane of powered eye. Same old blinking, flashing lights. Now I'm only hearing popping sound, which someone told me later was most likely some of those bullets passing through the fuselage of the airplane we were in. Big old bomb hanging there in the bottom. Man, I couldn't wait. And this other guy, to get his train of thoughts back together, I just reached over, slid the lock forward, threw the breech open, fed the end of the belt in the loading mechanism, slammed the breech shut, grabbed the charging pin, pulled it back, and let it go. Bam! We got around the chamber. Shoot! I shouted, and he pulled the trigger. Now, I guess he was one of those guys that thought with a machine gun, you don't have to aim, you just point in the general direction of the target and fire away. Because I stood there and watched those tracer bullets fly off harmlessly to empty space, somewhere near to where that airplane had once been. I think that's when my country boy hunter instinct kicked into gear. I used to shoot jackrabbits on the run, Chinese ringneck pheasants on the fly. Nah, not with a shotgun, with a .22 caliber rifle. I knew you had to aim and put that bullet where the target would be when the two of them came together. Back there in the prairie pothole part of Minnesota, where I was raised on a farm in the 20s and in the 30s, you become a hunter and a gatherer real early in life. And you also better become a good shot, because being a good shot would oftentimes mean the difference of whether you would or would not have food on the table. I shouted, "Let me get the next one." He let that gun down, stepped aside, I grabbed it, brought it back into firing position. Just as I did, here comes another one of those guys in a power dive. Same old blinking flashing lights, big old bomb hanging in the bottom. Man, I got a bead and a lead. A bead and a lead. I continued leading and squeezed the trigger. I continued leading and firing. All the while that airplane came down, completed its power dive, pulled out into level flight, passed just overhead. I watched those tracer bullets fly through the air. It looked like every one of them went into that round opening on the front of that air-cooled dive bomber, then stitch to stitch right down the bottom of the fuselage. Now, some of you people know and remember that following each one of those tracer bullets, there were 4 regular bullets, another tracer bullet, 4 more regular bullets. So I know here and I know here that did some damage to that aircraft. But you're not going to be watching him to see what happened to him. He's going away. He's no longer a threat. You better be looking for the next one that's coming at you. I bring that gun back down and I'm looking for another one in a power dive. I don't see any power dive. Oh, there's one out over the channel, maybe 2 city blocks away, well within the range of a 50 caliber machine gun. Now, he's not in the power dive, but a steep banking and descending left turn as though he's getting ready to make another machine gun run on it. Because he's in that banking turn, I can see the cockpit, maybe 6 or 8 feet behind the front of that airplane. I figure at that distance and at that speed, if I use the front of that airplane as my aiming point, I'm going to get some rounds into the fuselage, maybe even into the cockpit. And believe you me, if you can get a few of these bouncing around inside that cockpit with that pilot, you're going to give him something else to think about besides coming back and machine gunning you a second time. I maintained that lead, squeezed the trigger. Brrr. I don't think I got off more than about 6 or 8, maybe a dozen rounds at the most. But I saw at least 2 of those tracer bullets disappear into the fuselage of the airplane, just forward of the cockpit. And when they did, that airplane did an abrupt rolling right turn and was gone from my field of fire. No more aircraft came back to bomb or strafe fire into the island that morning. 50 years later, I was back at Pearl Harbor. 50 years later, I was listening to a broadcast from Pearl Harbor. It seems that year that they had made a lot of extra effort to locate as many of those pilots as they possibly could who had participated in that raid at Pearl Harbor, who had survived the war, who were physically able to travel. They had brought them back to Pearl Harbor for that anniversary. They were interviewing him. They asked this one pilot, "What part did you play in that raid?" Now listen carefully to this. He said, "I was the lead pilot of a group of 9 aircraft. Our assigned targets were the airplanes and hangars on Ford Island." That's where I was. He said, "When I went in for my first run, machine gun, dropped my bomb, I didn't see a soul. It was like the whole island was asleep." But he said, "We were surprised how fast they reacted, because by the time I had came around and was lining up to make a second machine gun run, there was so much fire coming up that I turned and went elsewhere." Oh, I would love to talk to him. There's the guy that dropped the very first bomb to fall at Pearl Harbor that morning. That's the guy that dropped the bomb that got to me physically, spilled of my blood, most likely the very first blood to fall at Pearl Harbor that morning. But in spite of that, I think I'm the guy that got to him with that on-target 50 caliber machine gun fire and changed his mind about coming back and machine gun us the second time. Back then, it was common practice that whatever the lead pilot did, his wingman would follow and do the same thing. So if we had not left that ditch, got those guns and turned him away, it's likely that most all of them would have come back and machine gunned again. If they had, there would have been additional damage, maybe even fatality. Who's to say that some of those pilots may not have changed their flight path slightly and machine gunned that ditch that those guys were sheltering in? And if they had, most likely there would have been fatalities. Is it possible that those of us who disobeyed that direct order to stay in that ditch and instead went and got those guns and put up that defense and turned that lead pilot away may have in effect saved the life of the very person that threatened us with military discipline for doing so? I don't know, but it's possible. Okay. In 2010, I, my dear sweet wife, daughter, and son-in-law went to Pearl Harbor for that 69th anniversary. I think there were about 116 of my fellow survivors there. I think each and every one of them, down to the very last man, had been back there a number of times during those passing years. For me, that was the first time back to Pearl Harbor in 64 years. After attending the memorial service that morning, we boarded the very first white boat to go out to the USS Arizona Memorial. Standing there on the deck of that memorial, look over the side, the hull of that vessel resting there on the bottom of the harbor, then all those names listed there on the outer wall, and know that those are the names of 1,177 crew members who went down with the ship. Most of their remains are still down there, still aboard that vessel over which I was then standing. I had previously had a dream that maybe someday I could do something, somewhere, somehow, to try to bring to them the well-deserved honor and continued remembrance that they so rightfully deserve. Standing there on deck of that memorial that day, I had a vision that I could do that, such as I'm doing here today. And I made a solemn promise to them that I would do that. And with the help of all you good people here, Save Mount Diablo, the college, everybody else that's been so helpful, not only in these meetings, but also in restoring the beacon, keeping it working, to the past and present mayors and council members of Concord and Clayton, who have been so helpful to me, to the members of the Veterans Association down in Martinez, California, also, together with you people's help, I am living that dream. Yes. You have made that vision come true, and I have kept my promise. As we go out to light the beacon tonight, if you will stand and watch that beacon as it rotates and sends its broader, newer, broader, and brighter beam of remembrance out across all the valleys below, if you will put yourselves in the right frame of mind, and if you will listen very, very carefully, not only with your ears, but with grateful hearts and respectful minds, then all of those people who down through the years, not just at Pearl Harbor, but everywhere and anywhere,